Hey guys, and welcome to your classroom away from school. Today we're going to have a look at irregular verbs, or verbs that don't like to follow rules. Before we begin, however, there are two terms I think you need to know about before the lesson begins. The first one, conjugate, means att böja. We use this primarily to say that we wish to conjugate into different tenses, eller böja olika verb till olika tempus. And speaking of tenses, past tense is the expression we use to explain the Swedish dåtid. For example, something we did yesterday. And this is one of the tenses we're going to focus on during this lesson. So, what do I mean by regular? In Swedish it means oregelbunden. It means that something won't follow the otherwise normal rules. And since there are verbs that won't follow the rules, there are verbs that will. And there are plenty of grammatical rules to follow, but the ones for the regular verbs are quite easy. Simply add ed at the end of a verb, and voila, you have conjugated a verb. For example, play, played, have played, had played, will play. Or watch, watched, have watched, had watched, will watch. We can then of course conjugate it further by adding words like have, had, or will before it. As long as you keep in mind that it's only the past tenses, played, have played, and had played, or watched, have watched, and had watched, that will use the ed ending. Always look for the words have, had, or will to help you remember how you're supposed to conjugate the word. Seems pretty simple, right? Yep, the regular verbs are pretty simple. The irregular ones, however, not as simple. The rule to only add ed at the end won't work with them. Try conjugating these verbs. Pause the video and think about how you would conjugate them. Ready? As you might have guessed, none of these verbs conjugate the normal way. Instead, they won't follow the regular rules, making them irregular. Wake, for example, becomes woke, or have woken, or had woken. Put doesn't conjugate at all. It's simply put, and then have put or had put. Run changes just for the past tense, becomes run, ran, have run, had run. And it's basically the same thing with begin. Begin, began, have begun, had begun. Unfortunately, the only way forward is practice. There are many different grammatical rules, but for the irregular verbs one, you can sort of, after a while, see some of the patterns that form, that some of the irregular verbs will conjugate in the same way, but there is no ironclad rule the way it is with, for example, ed and regular verbs. And because of this, the only thing we can do is practice. You can use a Quizlet or flashcards to help you practice. There's going to be a Quizlet to help you with them that you can find in our classroom. Find some time every now and then to make sure you increase your vocabulary and become aware of how they're supposed to be conjugated. That's all for today. If anything has been unclear, rewind the video and re-watch it. Remember, you can always bring questions to class. See you there.